Hi, my name is Cole Sternberg. I'm a visual artist, and right now we're standing in my exhibition FREESTATE at ESMoA. And why are we standing here? It's because today we're going to make social activism posters that spin off of the theme of FREESTATE, which is searching for a new enlightened version of a community and giving the voice back to the people. So before we get started, I'm just going to show you a few examples of how I make these kind of posters normally, just to maybe give you a little bit of inspiration in terms of color or text, or just to spark to your mind that yours don't need to look like this at all. My idea in these kind of posters is to make them very clean and to use the color palette to create the excitement per se. So this selection of posters all deals with a general idea of a beautiful dream of California. And as you can see, the text is the same. It's very specifically clean, but the color looks like the rainbow of colors. So I think it's fun for you to play with color in a similar way, or the opposite way, or just some kind of crazy way. And then in terms of the text, it could be anything. It could be, I love California. It could be the Pacific Ocean, flowers in your hair, which is after a song about San Francisco. It could really be anything. Whatever inspires you, go for it. You can always paint over it and start again as well. Okay, so first we're going to start with what materials you can use. And the good news is you can use whatever you want. If you just find an old piece of scrap paper and a pencil, great. If you have poster board, even in these crazy fluorescent colors, great. Paint, stickers, magazines, printouts. I mean, the world can be used to create a collaged sign. So today we're going to use poster board, a little bit of paint, and some markers, but that doesn't mean you could use none of those things really. This is just to kind of inspire you and get you rolling. We're going to start with a pretty simple visual, but the fun part is kind of flipping it in reverse due to this crazy fluorescent paper I have here. Let's go with maybe the brightest one. The good thing about these bright ones are if you're making them into a sign, you can see them from far away. The bad thing is they're a little challenging on the eye from close up. So if I was using this as an activation material, I'd want people to be able to see the words the best. If you just wrote in black, it's still the pink that overwhelms it. So what I was thinking, if you have something this bright, is to kind of do the opposite. So I'm using a very simple thing, just CA, and then because we want the pink and the text to be together, I'm going to get rid of the rest of the pink. This is just basic acrylic that I forgot to shake. That's why it has that little bit of oil at the beginning. So I'm doing this really quickly. You should do it as quickly or as slowly as you want. But basically, it's just making everything black except for the C and the A. This is a foam brush. You can use a regular brush. You can use your hands, a sponge from the sink. I mean, whatever you can find, you'll be able to accomplish this. It may take a couple layers too to really get rid of all of the pink. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea. I wouldn't call this finished yet, but it's a fun way to play with these different colors, especially if you have a lot of different magazines or newspapers or poster board. You can use layers in that way of kind of reversing the color palette to make it a little more effective. So another thing you can do is really create a collage out of materials to get to your final statement. So, and you can also change between portrait and landscape. Do you want things to be that way or that way? This way feels more like how you would take a picture of a person. And then if you wanted to start collaging things on there, it can be really simple or really complicated. But basically, you can rip shades of paper layer them however you feel like. So something like that. And I'm thinking this is kind of like the water with an island sort of poking out in the background. And you don't have to be afraid of the tape. You can just use regular tape or colored tape or, you know, whatever it may be. So you can create sort of simple or more complicated collages, you know, and then maybe add text to it. So it's actually one word, Pacificist, but I sometimes like to play with things, breaking them up. It seems a little more dramatic with the bigger ist at the bottom. And then you have, voila, another style of poster. Lastly, I'm going to focus a little bit on the language more than these bright, crazy visuals, and also use a more reasonable sized piece of paper. So if you have a regular piece of printer paper at home, that's great. That works fine for this as well. What I didn't discuss in the other ones is how we use text, how I came up with the text for all of my posters, how you could approach text, and it can be a complicated or a simple matter. It can be what you enjoy about your neighborhood, or it can be a poem you find on the internet, or a poem you write, even better. And then you can play with how you want to space that on a visual, and you can layer text and layer imagery too. So you can always start with a layer of text and then paint over it and go back and forth if you want. For now, I'm just going to play with the idea of filling space sort of dramatically with text. And for me, well, I live in Los Angeles, so maybe we'll just start with that. And all the rules that you learn in English class, you can totally disobey. I need proper spacing. You don't have to finish words on lines. You can just keep going if you want, or do it the opposite, or write in cursive, or whatever you feel like. So here it says, Los Angeles, where owls stir the silence. And I just like that statement. It's like this quiet, elegant animal forming a group and starting to speak up for itself. You might probably find this pretty boring at this point. I think it's interesting to kind of jumble it up. It looks all confusing, but then you can do whatever you want. For instance, you could turn it into, a crossword puzzle. Soar is kind of a strange word to pick up, but whatever, it was there. You can also start drawing more specific realist things in the background, like if you wanted it to feel like the horizon. Certain colors will still work on top of each other where you don't lose the under part. You can also just play with lines and start. What I like to do as a kid was just color in anything I could, which can bring you back to the first one of highlighting certain words or letters because you've colored them in. And then if you think, oh, this looks kind of strange and I wish I didn't circle soar, you could just flip it over and start again, and you can make it way more elegant, just something like a dream. And that's done as well. Okay, so that's about it. Now it's time to get to work. Keep in mind there are many beautiful things out there in our environment. We're really lucky to be here, but there's also a lot of things that we need to fight for to keep progressing forward. So think of how your artwork can really activate in your home and to your neighbors and friends and at school. And if you need more information on everything I've been mumbling about, check out ESMoA.org or the freerepublicofcalifornia.org. Thanks.